My girlfriend said, "I've been sleeping with our boss for a promotion." I said, "Smart strategy." Then I forwarded her confession to corporate HR. They both got fired, and I got his position. I'm 28 male, a senior consultant at a large management consulting firm. It's a shark tank, and we all know it. Performance is everything. For the last 3 years, I've been swimming in that tank alongside my girlfriend, Maya, 27. We met at the company, started as junior analysts together, and shared an apartment, a life, and what I thought were the same ambitions, pursued with the same ethics. For the past 6 months, there's been one big prize we've both been circling: the newly opened engagement manager position. It's a major step up. More money, more responsibility, and a corner office. The decision maker was our direct superior, Duncan, 45, the head of our division. He's a classic corporate predator, all charisma on the surface, with a core of pure self-interest. I knew I was a strong candidate. My numbers were solid, my client feedback was excellent, and I'd put in the brutal hours. But in the last few months, Duncan started favoring Maya. She was given the lead on high-profile projects, invited to exclusive client dinners, and her mistakes were quietly brushed aside while mine were put under a microscope. I was frustrated. I thought it was just biased office politics. I was incredibly naive. Last night, she told me the truth. We had just come back from a team dinner where Duncan had publicly announced Maya would be leading the Project Odyssey initiative, the most significant contract our division had landed all year. It was the unofficial signal that the engagement manager job was hers. She was giddy, floating on a mix of champagne and triumph. I was nursing a whiskey on the couch, trying to be a supportive partner, while my own career ambitions were circling the drain. She sat next to me, a smug smile playing on her lips. "You're being quiet," she said. "Don't be sore, Ronan. A win for me is a win for us, right?" "I'm just trying to figure out what I missed," I said, honestly. "My metrics are better than yours, Maya. My client retention is higher. How did you swing this?" She took a sip of her wine and looked at me with an expression that I can only describe as pity. "You're always trying to win by the rules, Ronan. That's your problem. You think life is a spreadsheet. It's not. It's about strategy." "What strategy?" I asked. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I've been sleeping with Duncan for the last 4 months. It's how the real game is played. He needed a little incentive to see my potential, and it worked. The job is mine." The room went silent. The ice in my glass cracked. It was the only sound. Every memory of the last 4 months replayed in my head, now cast in a disgusting new light. Her late nights at the office, the emergency weekend sessions, the expensive new handbag she claimed she got on sale. It was a tidal wave of betrayal, both personal and professional. My first impulse was rage, a hot white flash of it. But I am a consultant. We don't make decisions based on emotion. We analyze the data, identify the core problem, and devise a solution. The problem here was a gross violation of corporate ethics, fraternization policies, and basic human decency. The solution required precision, not passion. I looked at her. I let my face relax into a neutral, almost impressed expression. I gave a slow nod. "Smart strategy," I said. Her smug smile widened. She had been expecting a fight, tears, accusations. My calm acceptance was the one thing she wasn't prepared for. She thought it was weakness. Submission, right? She said, relieved. "I knew you'd get it. Once I'm in the position, I can pull you up with me. We'll be a power couple." I kept my expression placid, but my mind was already working. A verbal confession was useless. I needed proof. A paper trail. Duncan was sloppy and arrogant. Maya was lazy. They would have left one. I stayed up all night. After she passed out in a drunken, triumphant sleep, I opened my work laptop. I didn't need to hack anything. We were a team, and our work often overlapped. I had access to the project folders on the shared server. I started with Project Odyssey. I dug into the file metadata. The initial proposal, the one Maya had supposedly authored, was created on Duncan's user profile. He just changed the author name in the document properties. Lazy. Then, the real goldmine, expense reports. Duncan's were legendary for their audacity. I cross-referenced his corporate card statements with Maya's social media and my own calendar. A $600 dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant for a client meeting on a Saturday night 2 months ago. The client was based in another country. I was visiting my parents that weekend. Maya had told me she was having a girls' night. 2 first-class plane tickets and a hotel suite for a conference in another city. The conference was real, but a quick search showed the company had only authorized one person to attend, me. Duncan had claimed my spot and taken Maya instead, expensing the entire trip. Monthly gift purchases from luxury brand stores, Bottega, Cartier, listed under client depreciation. I spent 4 hours downloading, screenshotting, and compiling everything into a single, password-protected folder. Expense reports, email chains where he praised her for work I had verifiably done, her Odyssey proposal with his digital fingerprints all over it. I created a timeline, linking every piece of evidence to a specific date and policy violation. It's now 6 a.m. Maya is still asleep, dreaming of her corner office. I have a draft email open on my screen. The recipient is the head of corporate HR, a woman with a reputation for being ruthless and impartial. The subject line is simple: formal complaint regarding unethical conduct and misuse of company assets. Division Head Duncan Veltman. I've attached a 32-page PDF detailing everything. She thought the game was over. But I'm about to make my move. Update 1. The fallout was faster and quieter than I could have ever imagined. Corporate HR at our firm does not mess around. They are the company's immune system, and they treat corruption like an infection to be swiftly and silently purged. I sent the email at 7 a.m. on Monday morning. By 10 a.m., I received a discreet, one-line reply from HR. Mr. Hayes, we have received your submission. Do not discuss this matter with anyone. We will be in touch. The atmosphere in the office changed almost immediately. On Tuesday, 2 people I'd never seen before, a man and a woman in severe gray suits, were in a conference room with Duncan for 3 hours. He came out looking pale and shaken. An hour later, Maya was called into the same room. She came home that night in a state of barely contained panic. The smugness was gone, replaced by a twitchy, paranoid energy. HR is asking all these weird questions about my expenses on the Phoenix trip, she said, not looking at me. Someone must have filed a complaint. It's so ridiculous. I just shrugged. That's weird. I'm sure it's nothing. My non-reaction seemed to agitate her more than an accusation would have. The next day, the confrontation I was expecting finally happened. She cornered me in the kitchen as I was making coffee, her eyes blazing. "This was you," she hissed, her voice low and venomous. "You did this. They're asking about Duncan, about the Odyssey project. You reported us." I didn't deny it. I just took a slow sip of my coffee and looked at her over the rim of the mug. "You called it a smart strategy, Maya. I just followed your lead. I'm playing the real game now." "You're trying to ruin me," she yelled. "Let's be precise," I said, setting my mug down. "I'm not trying to ruin you. I reported a superior for misusing company funds and promoting an employee based on a sexual relationship. That employee, who happened to be you, was complicit in the fraud and submitted plagiarized work. Any ruin that occurs is a direct consequence of your own actions. It's a simple audit. Your choices are the debits, and the consequences are the credits. I'm just the one balancing the ledger." Her face contorted with a rage that was terrifying to see. She didn't see the betrayal. She didn't see the lies. She only saw her ambition being thwarted. "I will end your career, Ronan. You have no idea who you're messing with. Duncan has connections everywhere." That's when I knew I had completely won. She was still clinging to the idea that Duncan had power, but I had seen the look on his face. He was a ghost. That afternoon, Duncan tried his own move. He called me into his office for the first time all week. It was a clumsy attempt at intimidation. "Ronan," he said, trying to sound casual as he leaned back in his chair, "I hear there are some damaging rumors flying around. You'd be wise to remember that loyalty is highly valued at this firm. People who rock the boat often find themselves washed ashore." I just looked at him. I didn't say a word. I let the silence hang in the air. I knew the room was probably bugged for the HR investigation. I just nodded slightly and said, "I appreciate the advice, Duncan." As soon as I got back to my desk, I sent a follow-up email to HR. Subject: follow-up. Content: Duncan Veltman just attempted to intimidate a subordinate who is a party to an active HR investigation. Meeting occurred at 2:15 p.m. in his office. On Friday morning, an email went out from the regional director. Duncan and Maya were being placed on indefinite administrative leave, effective immediately. Their access cards were deactivated. Their email accounts were suspended. I packed up Maya's things from the apartment this weekend. She's been sending me a deluge of texts, alternating between threats, tearful apologies, and pleas to take it all back. I haven't responded to a single one. It's just noise. The best part? This morning, the regional director called me. "Ronan," he said, "Project Odyssey is in chaos. I need someone to step in and stabilize the ship. Effective immediately, you are the interim lead. Don't let me down." I am now sitting at the head of the conference table. In the meeting Maya was supposed to be leading. The work is a mess, a tangle of her incompetence and Duncan's neglect. And I'm going to fix it. Update 2. The purge was as swift and brutal as I expected. 2 weeks after being put on leave, both Duncan and Maya were officially terminated. The official email was a masterpiece of corporate euphemism. We announced that Duncan Veltman and Maya Singh are no longer with the firm. We wish them the best in their future endeavors. It was the corporate equivalent of being thrown out of a moving car. Their future endeavors, as I've heard through the grapevine, are not going well. Duncan is unemployable. Being fired for cause, especially for financial misconduct and an ethics violation with a subordinate, is a career death sentence at his level. Word travels fast. He's toxic. Maya is in an even worse position. She has no real network, no significant accomplishments that are truly her own, and a black mark on her record. She's been trying to spin a story to recruiters that she left to pursue other opportunities, but it falls apart the moment they ask for a reference. A friend of a friend who works in recruiting told me her resume is basically being laughed out of every inbox it lands in. The consequences are real, and they are entirely of their own making. My life, meanwhile, has been consumed by Project Odyssey. It was a bigger disaster than I realized. Key deadlines had been missed, the budget was a wreck, and the client was getting nervous. For the past month, I've worked 80-hour weeks. I untangled the mess, reassigned the team, rebuilt the client's trust, and put the entire project back on track. I didn't do it with charisma or shortcuts. I did it with spreadsheets, late nights, and a relentless focus on the data. I did my job. The team has been fantastic. Once Duncan's toxic influence and Maya's undeserved authority were gone, everyone started to perform. It turns out people work better when they aren't being managed by a predator and an imposter. We're not just on track now, we're ahead of schedule. Yesterday, the regional director, a man named Peterson, flew in specifically to review our progress. We spent the day going through the project plan, the revised budget, and the new client feedback, which is now glowing. At the end of the day, he asked me to stay behind. "Ronan," he said, looking at me across the big boardroom table. "When this mess with Duncan and Singh went down, we had a problem. The division was in free fall. You were handed a grenade with the pin pulled. From what I'm seeing, you not only put the pin back in, you disassembled the grenade and sold it for parts." "I have a good team," I said. "Don't be modest." He waved me off. "The team is good because you're leading them. We've been looking for a permanent replacement for Duncan. We think we've found him." He slid a folder across the table. "This is an offer for the engagement manager position. Full title, corner office, and a significant pay bump. The job is yours if you want it." I opened the folder. The numbers were better than I expected. It wasn't a moment of fist-pumping triumph. It felt quiet. It felt like an equation that had finally been solved, like a ledger that was now perfectly, satisfyingly balanced. Final update. It's been 5 months since I officially took over as engagement manager. The corner office has a nice view. The team is thriving, we've landed 2 new major clients, and our division's profitability is up 15% quarter over quarter. The work is hard, but it's honest. I rarely think about Duncan or Maya anymore. They exist as cautionary tales, ghosts in the corporate machine. Duncan, I heard, had to sell his house and has been trying to launch his own one-man consulting firm, which is professional purgatory for someone like him. My final interaction with Maya happened about 2 months ago. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation. It was far more pathetic. I was leaving the office late one night and had called a car service. While I was waiting on the curb, a car pulled up. The driver was Maya. We locked eyes through the windshield. For a second, I saw a flicker of the old, arrogant defiance, but it was quickly extinguished, replaced by a deep, weary shame. She was wearing the company's polo shirt, her hair was tied back, and she looked exhausted. The contrast was stark. I was in a tailored suit, holding a briefcase full of successful project files. She was driving strangers around to make rent. She didn't say anything. She just stared at me, her face a pale mask in the glow of the dashboard. I didn't feel anger or pity. I felt nothing at all. She was just a person I used to know. The car behind hers honked. The moment was broken. She looked away and drove off into the night. There was no need for words. The reality of our situations was the only statement that mattered. She had taken a shortcut and driven her life off a cliff. I had taken the long way, and it had led me exactly where I wanted to go. Some might call what I did revenge. I don't see it that way. Revenge is emotional, passionate. What I did was a simple, logical audit. I found irregularities, documented them, and submitted my report to the appropriate authorities. The system took care of the rest. I didn't ruin their lives, I just exposed the truth of their choices. They were the architects of their own destruction. I just handed them the bill.